Call the council meeting to order and ask for a motion to accept or amend the agenda. Campbell. And Wadden. All in favor? Declaration of pecuniary interest, if any.
Your worship, I have a declaration of interest, pecuniary interest under the bylaws, the cross-border servicing agreement.
Okay. I was supposed to have added department reports for fire department, the zoning bylaw for Wingham Creek, the all zoning bylaw, all lands within North Huron. And there is an in-camera dealing with personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. I better go back to that one first.
Interest, declaring conflict on the cross-border service agreement.
Okay. For the agenda, Campbell and Borden, was it? Is it okay to add those points? Yes. I'll do it all in favor on it again. All in favor, carried. Okay. Any other pecuniary interests? Okay. Reeves report. That I have a number of flyers and things that I picked up at the annual conference. Any of the councillors wanting to go through some of it, they are available to the councillors at the end of the meeting. Also, I had a very interesting Sunday on downtown Blythe for the Fair on 4. It was extremely interesting watching it take place. I want to commend staff that volunteered to help out. That was great. Members and individuals, the volunteerism was fantastic for it. And the number of hits on Facebook and a number of media things was great. It proved we could do it, even though there was a number of naysayers that bought tickets hoping it could be done, but were blown away by how successful it was done. And I think that it was just an example of how a group of people can be very positive and very, very productive in coming together under a common purpose. Also, in Blythe this week, there's the build-up for the Thrashers for the end of the week. That's underway again, and commending all the volunteers that put things together to make it work. That is why Councillor Hallahan, if he makes it, is going to be late, that he's finishing up a number of things on one of the committees for the Thrashers, so that that's great. And just, I think I'll throw out a little bit of a plea. If anybody wants to bring their shovel for Saturday morning, there's 250 trees to be planted under the TD, what's the proper name of the program?
Green Streets. Is it Green Streets?
Yeah, Green Stream. And that they will be put around one of the water holding ponds up east of the high school. Starting at 9 o'clock in the morning, I believe, and that the more people we have, the less trees per person. To my knowledge, there's about a dozen are really scheduled for it now. It would be nice if we had a few more. Doug?
Just a point, because I've been dealing with TD Bank on this.
Okay.
It's called the TD Tree Days.
Tree
That's what
days.
it's called. You have to register online. There's a liability form to fill in,
Okay.
and there's a limit to the number they have. So don't just show up.
Okay.
You really do need to register online with them for it. So I think they're getting close to the.
Thank you for that
number.
information, Doug. I haven't signed the thing yet, but my name is on the list. Okay. I think that's the main things that I want to report at this time. Reading of the minutes of the previous meeting, do I have a motion? McGowan and Campbell. Any questions? All in favor? Carried. No deputations or petitions. Nothing from business arising from previous meetings. Going to department reports, I want to take the fire department of North Huron report out of order to allow David to get to other fire department business.
Appreciate that. I've got myself double booked this evening, and the rest of my officers are meeting right now without me, which can be kind of scary if you're the chief and you're away for an hour or two and everybody else is meeting around you. But just a couple of notes. First one would be is Fire Department North Huron Captain Russ Nesbitt, who's also an acting sergeant with Huron OPP, received notice today that he is this year's recipient of the Huron County Warden's Police Officer of the Year award, which is really good for us. He's been very active with Special Olympics, and as a fire department, we're very proud of Russ, and we want to make note of that. Second note is that today was the first day of Morris Turnberry and North Huron working together in fire prevention. So Fire Prevention Officer James Marshall is working for Morris Turnberry and contracted to us, and he is out of the STC, and that started today. And he was already working with Councillor Hallahan on some of the outstanding Thresher stuff before the reunion starts this weekend. And the last item I had on my list and in my sort of August summary report will come out next council meeting. It was a little bit fast for me to get it all put together for this evening. As with regards to Rescue 3, which is the truck out of Wingham Station. And it has been out of service with the fire department now for just about 6 weeks. It's domiciled at the STC, but it has not been responding. And quite candidly, its absence has had no impact on any of our operations and has not been noticeable. We currently have Rescue 3 listed on 2 U.S. fire apparatus websites, and we're getting interest pretty much weekly. We have people inquiring about it. And my concern is that our motion allows me to come back to council with a proposal that somebody's made an offer, and this is what they're willing to pay for Rescue 3. My concern is with the election coming and the sort of collar that puts on council operations. So sometime in the next few weeks we could get an offer that we would like to accept, and I may have a council that's in a position where they can't pass a motion to accept that offer. As such, I would ask for a motion this evening authorizing me to dispose of the truck for a fair and reasonable price, which in essence gets us around that collar. Choice B is if we carry with the existing motion and somebody does come along and want to purchase a truck, they may purchase another piece of apparatus before council's in a position again to approve the disposition of it.
So David, would you have a bottom line price that we would be aware of?
Yeah, there's a bottom line price, and I don't want that in a motion because
I just thought that out the second after I said that.
Because as soon as we already know that several of the buyers, they're all American.
Yeah.
and we know one from Minnesota in particular seems to know an awful lot about North Huron. So we're thinking they probably Googled around trying to find out what we would want for the
Yeah,
truck.
I rethink that.
Yeah.
I'll pull that back. I realize.
No, it's a fair question, but in today's Google era, that become the selling price pretty quickly.
Brock?
I'm not sure that this would get us around the lame duck period. I would think that a sale of something, whether it's done through a motion of council or through the decision by a department head, I'm not sure that that would be kosher.
I would suggest maybe Donna.
I was just gonna say, there's no actual offer on the books or anything at this time, so it's all potential at this point. So really at this point, it's just being advertised for sale as per council instructions. So until you actually had something to consider, I think you have to have it advertised if you want to sell it.
But if somebody comes in 2 weeks and offered us $100,000, how can I process it through council, for example?
That's the question.
Yeah.
After the 12th, we couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my feeling.
So I'd look for some direction on that, because we do know at some point we're going to get an offer that is in our target zone.
Archie?
Would it not be prudent if we advertise it, and then as long as the offer is received before the lame duck period, within reason that council could meet, then we would be able to discuss it. If you receive an offer after the 12th, I believe is the date, then I think you'd be out of luck. There'd be nothing we could do.
So if we don't receive an offer by the 12th, we should basically stop advertising it until December?
Because I don't think, just again, Your Worship, I don't think we have the authority to bestow upon you the ability to say, like, if you got an offer, even though we authorized it to be advertised after the 12th, if it came in, technically, I don't think you'd accept it, because it would have to come to council. Am I right, or?
Lame duck starts September 12th, and the first council meeting will be council December.
Right. So actually be September 11th then is the...
Yes. It's unfortunate, but that's the law.
How quick can we... Well, the bigger hurry we're in, the lower the price we get.
Oh, right.
Flip side is that if a truck is for sale and then it isn't out on the market until December, most people aren't interested close to Christmas on bringing a truck in service because of the time required to do so.
Perhaps put it on sale immediately.
Yeah, I don't want... Yeah, I just don't want to give it away.
No, that's for sure.
Okay, so there's no... I'll look to the experts out here how I can make this work for all of us.
Their heads, no, I don't.
All right.
I don't think there's a way to.
So we got till September 11th? Don't put that in the newspaper. Alrighty, and then when does the window back open again? 1st of December? 1st of December? Okay. Which realistically will probably relisted again in January. It's just unfortunate on our part, 'cause we got this truck, and honestly it's just sitting at the training center. And by the same time, if there's no way around it, there's no way around it.
I think that's the case.
Alrighty. Other than that, my August report will be next council meeting, but we continue to be busier than we really normally are. And, no rhyme or reason to it.
Some reduced intensity or not?
Well, we had 2 structure fires requiring mutual aid assistance in the month of August. So it's still there. I don't know. And last week marked my first complete year as fire chief, so I want to thank all of you for your cooperation working with me as I start to learn the ropes of public service as opposed to private business. Such as September 11th kind of deadlines. But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Oh, you ready, Pat?
Sure.
Director of Recreation and Facilities.
Thank you. Before I get started, I just want to introduce a couple people that are here with me tonight. I have Alan Avis from Alan Avis Architects. If you want to step up and join me in the hot seat, that's a welcome. He's going to give part of the presentation tonight on behalf of the renovation committee. And we have from the 1419 Inc. David Peacock, and he's the chair of that committee. Tonight we're very excited to be presenting the Blythe Memorial Community Hall renovation and restoration project design, schematic design, and budget to council. In your package was a brief report. It was not something that I could put in a report for council package. You really have to see it to believe it, and you can see around the room some of the design drawings that are available. We also have the schematic design booklet available. I have more copies if anybody wants them. I also left on your desk some other handouts. So you have your booklet of presentation. There's also a yellow sheet, which is the budget, which we're going to talk about. There's also a letter from 1419, which was in your package, and I also left a copy on your desk. And so without further, I'm just going to start through a bit of this. And I forgot Marion DeVries is also here, who is from the Blythe Festival and is the artistic director for Blythe. And I always say it wrong. It's not just the Blythe Festival; it's the Blythe Center for the Arts. And she's been an integral part of our committee. Thank you for being here. I'll go to the next slide. So we have had a renovation committee put together. It's an independent advisory committee. It's not part of 1419. It is not a committee of council. It has been a group that has been put together of all of the stakeholders that have an interest in the renovation at Memorial Hall. And so you can see from this, there's a broad range of people representing the Legion, the 1419 campaign, the township, the Blythe Center of the Arts, and some general members. And we were fortunate to have one member who was there during the 1990 renovation, so he's been very helpful. The process that we've gone through in the last 7 months, we went through a lengthy architect selection process, 3 phases where we had a request for qualification, a request for proposal, and then we've narrowed that down to 3 architect firms which we interviewed as a group. And after a lengthy process, we selected Alan Avis Architects from Godridge as the partner in this project and our consultant. There are 3 phases to this project, and we're really completed phase 1, and that's why I'm here tonight to talk to you. We had the schematic design phase, which we've been working with Alan since June 2nd until today. And we're completing that now, and we're going to share that with you. We would like to immediately move into phase 2, which is the construction document phase, where we would ready all of these documents for tendering and basically have the bid-ready package for a contractor, and complete that phase in April 2015. Ready to tender the project May to June 2015, and in phase 3, our construction phase would run from September 2015 to April 2016, which is the time when the Blythe Festival is not in operation, and that's our window of opportunity to complete the renovation. As a committee, we held a number of meetings in order to gather the feedback from the community, and we focused on the lower hall. Then we had a group focusing on the upper hall. We had a meeting just about the courtyard, a kitchen subcommittee, the theater technical focus group, an art gallery meeting, and we also had a group of stakeholders involved in the memorial artifacts at Memorial Hall. So the feedback from all of those was thank you for asking us, and they had lots of things to share with us, not only about the functionality of the building currently, but also how it could be used in the future and what we need to make it grow for more rentals, more activities, and more use, and the future that the Vision 1419 has for the community. The budget for the project comes out at a total of $3,216,521. Exactly. Not really. But that's what we are projecting, and that is what is on the page of the proposed items on your budget sheet. We have a construction cost of $2.8 million, design consultants and additional fees of just under $340,000 for our project total. So our phase 1, which we have completed, is in that budget number. Phase 2 is another $160,000, with the construction needing $2.9 million to move forward. Those are the rough numbers. Obviously, when we go to tender, we'll get firm numbers for our project. So without going into any more detail about that, we'll have opportunity for question. I'm going to ask Alan Avis to step in and present information about the renovation, which we took all of the challenges with the building and we believe came up with a great design that addresses almost everything that needs to be repaired and changed in the building for our future. Alan.
Great. This is going to be a bit of a whirlwind tour. We spent about 3 hours last Thursday giving a more in-depth discussion, so this evening is going to be very brief and hitting on the highlights. I've also taken liberty of shuffling some of the graphics, and they don't entirely go in order as shown here. And this next slide up is part of that juggling. Starting from the outside, with all the inputs that we had received and indeed using some of the launching point with some work that had been done back in 2012 with Jim Vaffietis, landscape architect, and the Stantec group, that we have incorporated and convinced Pat that it would be a good idea to expand the program for the project to include the forecourt for Memorial Hall and the whole building complex, basically. And versus what originally was the Stantec proposal has changed somewhat. And the big change here is that there's 45-degree angle, so we've rotated the, well, just give a bit of orientation. By the Memorial Hall, situated here, so this is just the footprint outline. The lobby space with the box office is in this zone, and then the administration building is here in Queen Street to the bottom of the page. So what we see out front here, for instance, are a couple of half cars sitting in the parking spaces along the street. Municipal sidewalk, and then from that point inward where we have all the color graphics is the forecourt area. The former library entry point into the north wing is just in this zone here. So the grid has been rotated by 45 degrees to provide the pavement surfaces. So everything that we see here with this grid with a narrow band plus a wider band is all sidewalk surface. And the orientation is such that it helps to draw people into the site. It takes into account green space, obviously, with gardens, lawn areas, several mature trees, revamping of the front entry to give a more of a presence for the entry into Memorial Hall to better address issues of crowd and the crush space coming up. So we provided a deeper stairway with a mid-landing. In front here in this triangular portion is the potential to put in a identifying signboard with the Canadian flag and other markers that are already on site, such as a historical plaque is here. The gardens, which have had dedications in the past to both the north and the south sides of this section of the courtyard, are both honored and carried forward. One of the interesting features that came out of the design is that with all the entries that we're looking at here into the revised lobby space, this new entrance, which we'll see better in the floor plan in a moment, and that's into the north stairwell, but it's modified. And this one, which came into the former library zone. All of those would now be down at street level, flush entry points straight in. So right now the grade climbs up as you come through this section of sidewalk. The intention is to lower the grade level so that all those entry points come in at grade and are flush. And the only stairs present is the ones into the main traditional east entry. Give a bit more of an idea what it looks like from the street. The before shot with the flagpole and good orientation in that fashion, and with the porch It's not overly abundant here, but evident, but we'll see in a moment. The wall of the porch we're looking at pulling forward to just fall in behind the column line. So there's a slight change there. And then the new stairway and such. Potential sign panel of some sorts can, again, this thing, the sign panel itself is not designed in detail, but the indication is that there's some ability to put a marker in here which can recognize the overall site and what is happening on the property. And then just some general notions of elements such as the seating. There are benches that are shown in the plan, banners along the street edge itself by the actual street curb, raised concrete plant, seating walls, which are part of the landscape features. And there's certainly lots of potential for carrying on other activities that can spill out into the courtyard, not just to deal with the performances that are ongoing within the theater and the upper hall, but other activities such as artwork, bringing some of the clues out to the street. There's been talk about possibly outdoor screens, digital TV panels, whatever they might be, just to be able to spill other activity into the street. This is the proposed main floor plan for street level. And very briefly, the lobby itself is expanded such that from the gallery walls, currently there's about a 5-foot corridor, and the lobby is to be proposed to come right into the back side of the columns. So the wall, which is currently in the box office, extends straight north, and then we have the 2 double sets of doors. The lobby area with the stairway is changed considerably, and we'll see more of that when we look at some interior perspectives. The main features here, stairs now are reorientated so that the lower flight ends with one facing the forecourt. And then we've removed a small elevator machine equipment room, which is tucked under the stairs, gotten rid of some columns so that we can increase the amount of space to take the types of traffic volumes which are going down the corridors to the washrooms and into the hoist itself, which provides for the accessibility to the upper floor level. Gallery is revamped in terms of floor, ceiling, wall finishes, but otherwise it remains pretty well unchanged. We are looking at closing off the one matching door at the north end. And then the washrooms are 2 large ganged washrooms to provide for the same amount of toilet fixture count is present in the building. But what we've done is we've pulled the little corner washrooms from that corner and this corner in Memorial Hall to provide a rational space in terms of its overall shape, and taken big advantage of incorporating existing windows at these locations. We've added a doorway here, but otherwise 3 more windows to bring natural light, visible connection into the building from the street and the courtyard, and also views back out to the street to really enhance that connection. One of the main issues with from knowing the building is that the lower hall right now feels very much like a basement space, and it's not. It's street level space, and this will really assist in creating that and bringing that type of atmosphere back in. In the north wing, we're proposing here to drop the floor deck, which is a concrete floor, relatively easily done, and drop it down so it's all flush with the lower hall, flush with the lobby, flush with the gallery. So everything we're looking at here is at one level, with the exception being the stairway here on the east side. And even this stairway, which is on the north side of the building, adding additional risers so that there's a landing which is immediately off of the lower hall, and providing a connection from the lower hall rather than the little stairway which is tucked way back in here at the moment. Really tight on the upper landing, and putting enhancing this stair, opening it up, and then having all the traffic flow between the upper hall, lower hall, or going straight into the courtyard using this stairway here. And we've eliminated the little stairway which is currently back in this area. that went a huge distance to freeing up how the space can be utilized for the kitchen and the other utility rooms, storage rooms, pantry and such. What's also really handy here is that barbecuing for the kitchen facility came into discussion, and now we've got grade level access from the kitchen that could come out and utilize the area forward of that door for barbecuing. This is very briefly to provide some notion as to what we refer to as a palette of materials, looking at ceilings with some gypsum board bulkheads, potentially lay-in wood ceilings, and we also have some lay-in tile ceilings. They can be very rich and quite different from just the fissured ceiling tile that most might immediately think of when talking about lay-in ceilings. Variety of more traditional lighting fixtures, flooring options have not been decided. Well, none of these finishes have been nailed down yet. That would be in the upcoming phase, but looking at possibilities of things like either polished concrete floors or sticking with wood or wood-like floors, and taking the columns, which are quite bulky right now, big square columns, and stripping off all that framed in surround on them, treating the columns with an intumescent paint to provide the fire rating, which the drywall currently provides, and then enhancing those columns and making them decorative. We're at that point reducing the physical size of those columns and opening up the space in doing so. Upper hall, so the main auditorium with the stairway and the stage by way of orientation. And so coming up through the main lobby, the landing's been increased by angling a new portion of the landing itself and swinging the door. This is in direct response to the ushers and volunteers that are helping to guide people to seats and just flowing through the building as they're standing in this area. Up to this time, they've caused some congestion on the stairways because it's a fairly tight space. So this is intended to provide some standing space just to the side of the main traffic and address some of that concession. The auditorium, we're looking at revised or refurbishments in terms of flooring, paint systems and such. All new theater seating throughout. The seating itself is upsized from what the current seating. There's a variety of sizes of seats, 19-inch wide all the way up to 22-inch in a number and varying quantities. All of the 19-inch seats are gone in this scheme, and the smallest seat going is a 20-inch. And the 1-inch does make a difference, let alone the fact that we have more 21 and 22-inch wide seats. So from a comfort point of view, there's quite an enhancement. These dotted lines forward of the stage are indicating a all-new lighting grid for theater lighting. Attached to that would also be some amount of fixed lightings for general public use that would be independent of the theater techs themselves operating the lighting system. So for whatever might be high school graduation or whatever purpose might, whatever functions might be there, if it's sufficient to have the fixed lights that would be set in that grid, then there would not be a need to have involvement from the theater tech folks to run the other theater lights. Stage, we're looking at refurbishing the floor, and this is that little stairway at this location which went down through by the kitchen area, or the proposed kitchen. That's now closed off, so it's a janitor room, and the main stair is this section in here, which is the existing stair. And what we've done, we've added an additional length down at the bottom, which we saw on the previous slide. The rest of the backstage areas, crossover, stage right and left, there was essentially unchanged. Balcony, there's continuation of all new seats, and to make consistent the risers up in the balcony. The risers right now come in different heights and depths, and they can be a little tricky for walking. So to make them all consistent riser heights is a very good safety move. And we are going to be revamping the technical booth that the the theater technicians utilize. The palette for the upper hall, fabric obviously needs to be selected based on the type of seats. These are 2 types of seats, and there are samples of each of these designs in the theater, or in the lower hall at this time. The one has a cast iron type of end to it, or cast aluminum, I guess it is, end, and it's a little more traditional, and then the other is a little more of a modern look. Again, carrying on with light fixtures, still keeping within the traditional character, refinishing of floors, with new carpet runners, and with that might be the possibility of integrating different types of pathway lighting within the edges of the carpet. We will be developing strategies to deal with the memorial plaques in a very respectful way, and to try to increase their visibility and the ability for people to really appreciate those plaques, and to deal with other issues such as the how on an ongoing basis can other names be added to those plaques, as those locally are still served or continue to serve with the military. So these are set up to show before and afters, roughly from the same perspective. And this one in particular really highlights the fact that getting rid of these little washrooms, and we can see a corner of the room there, and the other one is over in this corner. So that is the same corner with the 2 new windows, or the 2 existing windows now opened up within the lower hall. And then the other washroom, the male washroom in this location, with its window opened up, and then the second window on the north side being the access into the new north expanded stairway. Columns once again slimmed down and decorated, and playing with the ceiling heights, providing levels of interest in terms of several different ceiling height locations. So we have combinations of gypsum board bulkheads, lay-in tile ceilings with a more fissured tile for sound deadening. And here's some of the wood lay-in ceilings, which would then, the decorative light fixtures, pendant light fixtures could be suspended from. And all new flooring. The one concept that's strongly being considered at this point too is in-floor heating throughout the lower hall with a whole new concrete slab. And that going long distance to increasing comfort, and also to diminish the notion that it's basement or subterranean space. Slightly different angle, so this is more towards the back of the hall, looking due east down through the rows of columns. The 2 stairway doors which go into the existing east stairway are these doors, and then of course the new, or the existing windows reopened at these locations. And this is the existing lobby door that comes in by the gallery. New kitchen service window would be towards the north side of the space. You can definitely see where the column treatment is quite different, and will go a long way to not only opening up the space, but giving it an extra level of interest, in addition to ceiling and wall treatments. Issues of durable materials is a big part of it. Things like wood wainscoting for durability. Again, going back to the flooring, be it hardwood or polished concretes, or some flooring that's very durable, and very effective low maintenance type of ceiling systems that they're effective for acoustics within the room itself, plus for sound deadening between the lower hall and the upper hall, in the event that at a time there could be 2 different activities going on, one up and one down. So that becomes quite important in the future. So almost standing at the opposite end of the room, looking back, again, this is the double door into the existing lobby space. We have a bar area in the back here with a couple of doors to utility spaces, and then the kitchen area. Ceilings, by and large, are about 9 foot and change through that section to the drywall bulkhead, and then in this zone, it's getting closer to about 10.6, 10.8 of ceiling height. And then, of course, there's other modulation beyond that. The lobby gives a good impression of the rerun of that lower flight of stairs. Obviously, coming off the existing landing, it runs down north direction, and this comes down towards the east. The perspective distorts this view, indicating as if these stairs are at an angle. They are not, they're perpendicular. That's just a forced perspective issue with the wide angle of our computer, and it's hard to tell it to do something different. It's got a mind of its own. The angled landing up top, and then what's quite apparent here is how much more open that back corridor area is, going back past the lift device and then into the corridor washroom, or the washroom for the corridors. And a second perspective, just looking a little closer down into that zone with the washroom doors. And once again, you can see where the stairs currently coming down in a northward run, and now in the eastward run. To the exterior, you can get a better appreciation of the overall courtyard design, incorporating some mature trees with fairly high canopy, green softscape down at various garden locations, and then with the rest of the paved surface. There's always been a lot of activity at the theater, activities in particular, but at other art gallery events, and even more so in the future with the renovations completed. Crush space towards the outside is quite important, because it's the nature of the smaller communities is we take great advantage of outdoor space, and it's really important to be able to have that kind of spill out space for all the informal activity that can go on in just a break and get some fresh air. And this site has this great character already there. It's already got this courtyard, so this is a way of attempting to try and enhance that. And in particular, what we wanted to do is bring back some of the original character of Memorial Hall as originally constructed, with the hexagonal bell cupola, and with the treatment on the eave, the gable at the east stairway. The current little square plan type of bell cupola is quite
Ugly.
Thank you. And the gable itself is what was that, Brock? Okay, thank you. So what we're showing here is taking advantage of the rest of the momentum of the project, and really giving something else back to the street, which will be quite noticeable, and I think be a great enhancement for the overall project, and restore, or somehow or other reproduce what originally was looked like a scalloped shingle gable with a round window in it. It had a nice bit of detail according to these photographs, and bringing in also the hexagonal bell cupola, once again, which would be proportional to what originally stood on top of the roof itself. So that's the quick tour.
Thanks, Alan.
Timing?
Yeah, you were over, but that's okay. Because I know that is not even all the information about the building. The roof leaks, the HVACs are old, all of that is getting fixed and replaced. We're so excited about this. I wanted to just also mention that this renovation committee has met weekly for the last few months, since June, to get this ready for today, because this is our last chance to meet with council before we become lame duck or incapacitated or whatever you want to call it. And this is a very significant project with very tough deadlines to meet in order for us to get it done when the festival is not in operation. So I have to say thank you to all the members of the renovation committee and also to the 1419 board. And I could have filled this room on any other night with all of those people, but they're all at a conference about the new exciting projects that are going on in Blythe in North Carolina. So we were short on members that could make it tonight. I do have additional copies of all of these products here, the budget and such. In my report, just to summarize then, to go back to what we're asking from council tonight, is that you approve the schematic design proposed, that you also approve the proposed budget for the project. It's also asked the council approve the renovation committee proceed right now to phase number 2 of the project to start the construction document phase, and then we can hire our consultants to move forward. The funds for that phase 2 will be remitted from 1419 to the Township of North Huron to pay for that phase. It's also recommended that council approve the project proceeding to phase 3, the construction phase, with the provision that the funds for the project are remitted to North Huron by 1419 Inc. in advance of the tendering process for construction, which is April 2015. So that is our request for motions this evening to move forward. I'd like to ask any questions of anybody on council that have any. I'll turn it back over to you, Reeve.
James.
Are you removing the little elevator that's in there now? Like you said you were moving it, or?
It is only the equipment itself, the hydraulic pumps, that had to be
Okay,
relocated, but the lift
itself
itself would remain, yes.
Okay. And if I may, another question. In regards to the kitchen, there's a lot of new standards that we know have to, and that's probably something that's down the road, but sprinkler systems and all this kind of stuff will have to be put in the kitchen, and you haven't mentioned anything on that.
No, there's a lot of detail we skipped by, believe us.
Yes, I assume that.
There's a fairly lengthy list in the breakdown of the cost, which would probably go a long way to giving a good, or much better sense as to what all the components of the work involved in the project. The building itself right now, to answer the one on the sprinkling, the building itself is sprinklered at this time, including the adjacent administration building, except for the upper auditorium. It's the only space that's not currently sprinkled. The program that's provided here does extend the sprinklers through that zone, and indeed carries it through all the renovated areas. Kitchen included with a full NFPA compliant range hoods and everything else that's required. We've worked quite closely with a commercial kitchen consultant based on the input from the various user groups to date. We've got itemized listings of individual components of that kitchen that are ready for reviews. So
I know some kitchens that are going to go ahead, you've answered all those questions.
yeah, we've worked closely with the church organizations, which have traditionally utilized the lower hall, with the Legion, Ladies Auxiliary of the Legion, mostly and the catering services around. So we've had some fairly in-depth discussions to make sure it's right.
Yeah.
And those will carry on.
Brock.
I'm wondering, is the 1419 committee prepared to advance additional funds, should they be required, for the renovation project? Is that line tonight?
Yeah, so I guess the original target we had aimed for was 2 million, and now it's 3.2 million. And we're fortunate to have David Peacock here to maybe address that directly for council, if he may.
Yes.
So Brock, rather than keep you hanging on that one, the answer is yes. And I want to say, first of all, I'd like to commend and thank the Township of North Huron, Township staff, and particularly Pat, Marion for attendance tonight and her attendance in all the renovation committee meetings. This is $1.2 million more than we anticipated when we started out, but we feel that we are fully behind this project. a $3.2 million renovation to return this hall to the splendor it deserves is well within the scope. And I would like to read to you, if I may, a motion that was made at our meeting on Tuesday, August 19th. And the motion was that 1419 Inc. and 1419 Inc. is a not-for-profit incorporation that is committed to this goal. 1419 Inc. shares with the Township of North Huron its appetite to expand its fundraising targets to meet the goals set out by the Renovation Committee. The Board of Directors of 1419 Inc., of which I'm the chair, are comfortable with recommending an estimated $3.2 million budget for the renovation of Blythe Memorial Community Hall as within the scope and consciousness of a larger vision of 1419 Inc. to develop Blythe as a true Canadian Centre for Art and Innovation. That motion was carried unanimously by the board, and we're quite happy to back that motion. We recognize the time constraints that are required in meeting, not also simply the phase 2, but the phase 3 commitment to tendering this out for construction, and we're fully behind that. Many of you joined us for dinner on Sunday, 1,419 of you apparently. Thank you. That's the beginning. It's an auspicious beginning for something that we think will have a lot of legs. Our fundraising to date has been quite successful, and we stand behind this project unanimously.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council or staff? Okay. You said that there was some motions, Pat?
Yeah, so if you actually refer to the report provided, it provides sort of what we're recommending, and that sort of, I guess, would be 3 motions or 1 very long motion. First, that the schematic design as presented be approved, and that the budget of $3,216,521 be approved for the project. That's the first part. So do you want to do this one at a time, or?
Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Gowan seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
The second, sorry, go ahead. Okay, the second part is that we recommend the council approve that the renovation committee proceed immediately to phase 2 of the project, the construction document phase, and hire the approved consultants for a budget of $160,149. And these funds are going to be remitted to the Township of North Huron from 1419 Inc.
Do I have a mover? Councillor Bailey. Councillor Vauden seconds. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
And the third part is we recommend that council approve the project to proceed to phase 3, the construction phase, with the provision that the funds for the project are remitted to North Huron by 1419 Inc. in advance of the tendering process for construction.
McGowan and Bailey. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
So once again, I just want to thank everybody who's been behind this project and supporting it to date. It's a very exciting opportunity for North Huron and for the Blythe community. And obviously, if anyone has any additional questions, we're always available for tours and such, but I have more copies of everything. Thank you.
Just one point.
Yeah, sorry.
If I may, I'd just like to thank North Huron for commitment of $500,000 to this project. I think that shows great foresight and commitment. I thank you very much, and I ask you if I may take my leave now.
You may.
Thank you.
Thank you to staff, plus Alan, David, and Marion.
Thanks, Captain.
I'll let you undo. I have one other item on the agenda, and that's in your package. It is a summary of the stats that have been achieved by the, like now I got to find where I am. The day camp program this summer. Our 2013 numbers were up from 2012. And then now we've enjoyed our 2014 program has also increased in number. And I think it's a testament to the staff that we hire, the staff that run these programs, that we have qualified high five instructors. Parents know it's a quality program. We also have enjoyed a partnership with Avon-Maitland District School Board for the literacy program they offer. We've been able to have those children be part of the program. And so I just wanted to share with council the good news and how busy we've been this summer. We've had, unfortunately, to turn some children away. We've been at capacity most of the summer. That's all I have.
Thank you, Pat. Moving point 3, Director of Corporate Services, Deputy Clerk. Kathy?
Okay, as council knows, as part of the budgeting process at the Child Care Center, we bring approximately $30,000 out of reserves every year in case we do run a deficit at the Child Care Center and for any other incidents that may arise. So we brought $31,250 out of our reserve account this year to help offset any operating deficit that we may have. Typically, we put this money back into reserve. We do not usually have to use it. I'm asking council tonight for special consideration to use $4,500 of the money from reserves to help with some paving down at the child care parking lot. If council remembers, we have a disjointed parking lot down there because there was a couple large evergreen trees that were removed in front of the child care center several years ago. So we kind of have a paved section and then a gravel section. And the shoulders of the driveway that goes into the child care center is not paved either. So the Public Works Department, in some of their road cuts are having a paving company come in this year to repair some of those road cuts. So at the same time, we can have the child care center, the rest of the parking lot, paid for approximately $4,500 if council will give us authorization to bring that money from the reserve account, or to expend it from reserves.
Discussion? Art, Vernon?
I'll put a motion forward that we pave the parking lot at the Children's Center from reserves, the cost of $4,500.
Okay. Further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Moving to point 4, Director of Finance, Donna.
Thank you, Reed. So we've been working on with council and the Wingham Hospital Board in regard to initiating a request to under Section 110 of the Municipal Act to make that property tax exempt. We're still working on some wording, so that bylaw and report will be coming forward at the September the 15th meeting. So we have nothing further to take action on that one this evening. So we'll have that again on September the 15th. If I could move on to item number 2. As you know, last meeting there has been 2 funding opportunities for capital infrastructure announced with both of those applications or expressions of interest are due on September the 19th. So with staff, Dawn and Kelly and myself have been working on trying to decide which would be the best projects to submit that would have the best chance of being successful under these applications. So really we've come up with 3 items for discussion, and in short summary, the one application is under a quicker time frame. The project has to be completed by December 31st, 2016, and there's a $2 million cap on the project, and you can ask for up to 90%. So that is the first application. The second application is a longer time frame, and it's a 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 split. And there is no cap on the application amount, and there is a larger pool of money to draw from on that. So at this time, we aren't ready with a recommendation, but the projects that we have been kicking around take a bit of a different vein than what we have applied before. As you know, one of our biggest concerns is the Mill Street construction project in Blythe and the hefty price tag that it has with it, over $2 million. We had tried to proceed with phase 1 of it this year for just over $500,000, but as you know, we've run into some paperwork issues there, and we're likely not going to proceed with the first phase in this year, now that it's already September. So that's going to be off the plate really for phase 1. So we're back to applying for, we've applied about 5 times for Mill Street through all different funding avenues that have come up. We've applied for both phases, phase 1, phase 2 separately, both together, etc. So at this point, we still, as I said, with our future commitments, that's one of our biggest concerns and biggest capital projects, and probably one of the most urgent capital projects that we have in the foreseeable future. The other one is the new well that we have been working on in Blythe over the last year or year and a half. So in the past, because we have water and sewer is completely self-funded through the user fees, and we have built up some reserves in water and sewer, we have always taken the approach to apply for funding that will assist in our taxpayers as opposed to water and sewer projects. But we aren't scoring high enough from a critical factor to be able to receive funding on some of these other projects. So one of the things that we're kicking around is to actually apply for the new well in Blythe under one of the applications, because at the end of the day, there's really only one taxpayer, whether they're a water payer or whether they're a taxpayer. And we feel with the urgency that's required for the new well in Blythe that it would score a lot higher, and we would probably receive a much more favorable mark on that application. That total project, Don estimates at approximately $525,000. Now, of course, that's not without the tower or the standpipe, which would add another $2 million to that. So it's a little bit of a different approach than what we've presented to you before, and we're just throwing that out there that from a critical nature, again, both of those projects are in Blythe, both significant amounts of money. So those are 2 of the projects that we're still considering. The third one is Patrick Street, and it's the reconstruction of one block from Carling Terrace to Catherine Street. It would be a complete rebuild. It would be approximately $200,000 to $300,000 to be able to complete that. So neither of those projects, either the well or Patrick Street, are what are not, they're significant dollars, but we were wondering about, again, looking at applications that were over $1 million to take advantage of the one-third. So I'm attending a webinar tomorrow on information that has to be in the documents. One of the questions in all the reading material doesn't answer from what date the grant application invoices can be submitted from. Normally, it's from the date of the announcements, which I think was something like August the 18th was the date that it came out. So all the work that Don has done on the well up until that point certainly wouldn't be eligible, but the money going forward, which we're estimated at about over $500,000, $525,000, would likely still be eligible to put in the application. So both Mill Street and Mill Street and the well are ready to go projects. Patrick Street obviously could be completed by the December 31st, 2016 time frame. The well might also be able to be completed by that time, but you never know what you're going to run into while drilling a new water source. And again, Patrick Street could be completed very quickly. So again, the timing on this is the applications go in September the 19th. We don't know until March the 15th whether you're eligible for either application. And then the one has to be completed by December 31st, 2016. And the other one is over a 5-year project. So as staff, we're kicking around those 3 projects and to prioritize which should go where. Again, with our concerns with Mill Street always coming to the forefront. So we're throwing that out there for right now. We have to get the applications completed as always. There was less than a month to complete both applications and have them back in with all the supporting documents on the expressions of interest. And that's only, of course, phase 1. If you're selected, then you have to go to a full-blown application process, which would be in January. So Don and I are throwing that out there. Don, is there anything else you have to add or would like to add on to that discussion?
Actually, nope, you did it all.
So would council have any questions or any thoughts or comments that you would like to pass on to us? Again, Kelly couldn't be here with us tonight. Dawn and Kelly and some of the work staff and water staff are meeting tomorrow again to go over the information required to fill out the forms. So, any other comments?
Yeah, in regards to the well, you said we're talking another 2 million for the standpipe. What do you, if we don't have a standpipe, what are we going to use for the well? The present well, the present tank that we have?
Yeah. With the new well, the additional production will take a little bit of the strain off the existing reservoir, so we'll have about 50% more water available, and then so you'll be using the reservoir less. So it kind of takes priority off that.
Okay.
It just becomes a structural and age thing for the reservoir now.
Brock?
I have a question about what you mentioned with regard to the new well. If we took some funds from the water accounts and we mixed some of the tax base funds, is that a violation of the self-supporting feature in the water system, or is capital excluded?
No, sorry, I don't know what you're asking.
I thought you were saying with one possibility on the new well project, that you might consider using other funds?
On the new well project, water has any matching money. Water and sewer already have their
okay,
money
it's
right
sufficient.
through.
I thought you were saying not quite adequate. Okay, that's good. That answers the question.
Anything else?
As I said, we're going to be under a tight time frame, and so at the September the 15th meeting, then that's all we have left. And so we'll be bringing a recommendation. At that time, we won't have a lot of opportunity for changes or discussion at that point. So it's a total gamble whenever you're submitting any of these applications. There's no guarantees. They're competitive based. So really we have to prioritize our, all 3 of those projects have urgency to them and would be documented by our asset management plan. So it's a matter of coming up with the highest scoring. But as I said, in the past, we have normally not used an application for a water and sewer only project, is what I was saying.
I see, okay.
Yeah, normally we as I said, because we have such concerns with our taxes, that we normally save all our applications for projects that can help out our tax base as opposed to water and sewer.
You've really covered what I was just going to comment on, that these seem to be all very high profile requirements and really not much to choose from them in terms of which would be the one to go after first. I would think that the one that you think is most likely to succeed would be the choice.
Well, if I may speak for Dawn, we feel that the new well would have the most urgency and would score the highest on the critical rating. So I don't think there's any question about that one. It's which would be the second one is really how we're leaning, and whether that's Patrick Street or whether, again, if we try again for Mill Street. I guess our big concern is how will we ever fund Mill Street at $2 million if we don't get some funding for it?
So Don,
Okay.
can you,
Okay.
so can you apply for all three, and if you got all three, turn one down? So you can go 1, 2, or 3, or just 1, 2, or just one?
One application under each program, and they can't be the same. So we can put in the 2 applications, which we definitely will,
Mhm.
but they can't be for the same project.
Bill?
If you apply for this, the Mill Street project right now is stalled because of paperwork. When was that anticipated to kick in again? So in other words, is this gonna delay Mill Street more? Or is it?
As far as I know, no. Don, have you been working with
The paperwork, yeah, so the holdup is the Ontario Realty Corporation have asked for, yeah, so we need an easement through there, and they've asked for an environmental assessment on their property, basically, before they'll allow the easement to go through. So we went through phase 1. They've identified a couple of issues, and to my knowledge, I think we're going to have to go into a phase 2 environmental assessment. Is that correct?
I haven't read that.
Yeah, I haven't been on vacation, so I haven't read the report either, but that's what I understand anyway, that because of the nature of the activity, we're going to have to go to a phase 2.
Okay. And if I understood you correctly, even if we go ahead with some of those things, those bills are still eligible if you were to win. Is that correct? So
At this point, we don't know from what date forward invoices are available. But for the Mill Street project, we are still proceeding with whatever we have to do because we are going to do it one way or another. Phase 1, council had already given approval to proceed with it, which is a much smaller piece. And we had found it wasn't included in the 2014 budget, but we were able to figure out with between water, sewer, and some reserves how we could actually go ahead with it. And then we got stalled by the easement and environmental assessment. So at phase 1, we still have to go ahead with Mill Street anyway, at least phase 1, whether we get funding or not, and whether like as a process type thing, we're going ahead with that. It's phase 2 that's the huge amount of money that's where it's really gonna stall us, is lack of money for phase 2.
Okay, and you said you had a meeting tomorrow for more information on it, that I'm sure council, if there's more information that you learn this week, then I think council will be very interested in that information. And if we had to do some extra discussions or whatever, we want to make it so staff can do the best job.
Okay. We can be posted on that part then.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then I'll move on to item number 3. So last council meeting, in your packages, there was the cross-border agreement with Morris Turnberry. As far as I know, they're also considering this bylaw tonight as well. And I think Gary had been talking back and forth with Morris Turnberry on any revisions and such, and how it was presented in your last package was the way they would go to their council with. There was one small amendment also on one of the Schedule Bs, which was a housekeeping item, which was the capacity of meters assigned to one of the properties. So instead of actually being established, it is to be established yet. So it's a very minor housekeeping item there, but other than that, the agreement was as presented at the last council meeting. So I don't think council had had a chance to review it in detail and read through it. I hadn't received any questions from anyone at the last meeting. I had asked if anyone had any questions to please contact me about it. I wondered if there's any further comments or any questions that you've thought about since last meeting regarding this agreement.
No question.
Do I have a motion?
I'll put a motion forward to pass this.
Actually,
Seconder, Vaughn?
If we pass that bylaw
Okay,
It's in the bylaw. isn't it?
yes,
Yeah, that's what I
actually
thought.
it is.
okay, that's fine.
We'll take that back and do it as a bylaw.
Do it in the bylaws.
Okay, so nothing further on that then? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Moving to new business, point one, the William Terry Fox Run request to waive tent rental fee for the Lions Picnic Shelter. McGowan and Campbell, all in favor? Carried. The Elementary School Fair Board request waive of tent fee permit for a tent to be used to shelter livestock on Fair Day, September 10th, 2014. I will not be voting on this.
I'll move that we waive that fee.
Campbell and Bailey. All in favor? Carried. Council information, for council to bring forward information for discussion. Brock.
I have a question on the first page of accounts as to what the card scan software is. Could you tell me what system that's for?
That's for the police station fingerprint
Oh,
unit.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Bill.
Page 2, the CBRE Limited, this is property appraisals, was that the industrial, and that's all that was, just for those?
Yeah.
So it was separate for the properties that were declared Hutton Heights?
Surplus.
Surplus?
Yeah.
I think
Were
it's-
they
it
included
was-
in there?
yeah, I think it was for all of them.
Was for all of them? Okay, all right. The, page 5, just Persona Consulting, notice banner to website, 200, what was that?
I have to go and look that one up. I think it's the addition to the website for the election.
For the election banner that goes across,
You paid $300 for it?
we had to pay an addition for it, to put it on our website.
That wasn't something that could be accomplished in-house? Can't,
Money can maybe speak, it's, we have a company that,
There are certain things that we can do in-house, and when it comes specifically to a design change, it has to go through the company.
okay. That's, yep. Thank you.
Your worship, will we be sending a thank you to the Barn Dance for their donation to
That is a motion coming forward.
the, it would,
Okay, seconded by Campbell. All in favor? Carried. Possibly on point 4, one thing on the joint and several liability, that was part of Hazel McCalligan's parting words from the AMO, is just because you haven't got it yet doesn't mean you don't need to keep fighting for it. So that
pretty disappointing, actually.
it's extremely disappointing, and that there had been 2 possible recommendations that coming forward. The one that no more than twice the percentage that you could be attributed to you, I thought was very reasonable. That whether we reply to AMO.
I would make a motion to send to AMO as well to the Premier, expressing our displeasure with the fact that this wasn't dealt with in some manner.
Second that.
5 seconds. Any further discussion on that? All those in favor? Carried. Brock?
I'd like to make a comment on number 3.
Oh, sorry.
Wendy Hernig's letter regarding the Goderich to Auburn Trail, and I guess the Guelph to Goderich Trail in general. I think she makes some really, really valid points. I think it's, looking at it from a reasonable point of view, I don't think there's a strong argument against what she's suggesting. And I, for one, believe that we should take a strong stand in favor of opening that trail and being participants in the development of the trail. Just for
Thank
future
you, and
consideration.
I respect that, but in her letter, she references, I believe it's Scott Nixon's writings from the meeting when it was presented at County Council. That wasn't the meeting I attended. I believe he completely missed it. If you compared Scott Nixon's report of the meeting with Sean Laughlin's, it was definitely a different meeting. That I will say, I know of, I'll say, families that have relatives in the area that trailer their 4-wheelers out of London to run the Gart Trail. They start partway through it. I don't know where Wendy lives exactly, but there is a lot of concern. And part of this concern goes back to the old lawsuit on Hoffer gravel pits, the other side of Elmira, where they forgot to lock one gate. A 15-year-old got in. This is approximately a couple of decades ago. And Hoffer's lost a $16 million lawsuit because they didn't have the person properly locked out of their property. That's what some of the neighboring property owners are looking at, so that there is balancing things in this. I'm not saying I'm for or against at this time, but in all our planning discussions, the neighboring property owners are brought in and asked for their comments. There's a lot of this. The neighboring property owners have been really bypassed. And there's a selling point that there was, I don't know about a petition or some of the other things, but I do know in one of the public surveys of all Huron County farm neighbors to it, there was a number, were completely in favor of it going ahead. A number of others just wanted to know exactly how it would be handled. And to date, they have been avoided. So that letter, yes, there was valid points, but there's balancing on the other side. Sorry for taking so long on that.
Just one reply, if I could.
Yeah,
It seems to me that bad things can happen whether there's a trail created or not. And so I think there's a lot of hysteria around it. I don't doubt that there are issues that need to be discussed. And I think everybody involved should be clearly involved. And if there's a questionnaire sent out, it should be done professionally and correctly and unbiased. And that's done by some independent group that is not having a big stake in the result. That's my stand.
okay. Bill.
I'm going to make the comment that the rural farmers have been asked to comment upon this trail, but in fact, I back onto that trail, or part of what's proposed to be that trail. I have never received any request for comment or input from anyone. And I'm not going to say for or against the trail, because at this point in time, I think the trail's a great idea, but I have concerns about who's going to fund it, who's going to police it, and where the ongoing funds are going to come from. But I will say, I have never received any information. None of my neighbors have been asked. And you will be able to ride or walk right up through my backyard. And I've had them with ATVs and people wandering around in my backyard. So, it's no different than a farm. I have liability questions about that whole scenario as well. So he's correct. Brock is correct in saying that if they're going to proceed with this and do it properly, they better find somebody that's actually going to do a proper survey and contact all of the relevant parties, not just the farms, but the urban areas it passes through as well.
In that, the one was a farm organization was asked to do a survey of all the agriculturally zoned properties. So that is the survey that I'm talking about, James.
There's people that actually received that survey after the deadline. And I'm not sure that some of those surveys were ever taken in with that survey set.
Of the numbers, the one survey, there was 125 contacted. There was 65 gave written replies by the date. And whether some of them got lost in the mail or whatever, I don't know. Okay. For 4 points, we've taken quite a while. Do I have a motion to receive, read, and file?
So moved.
Vaudman and not. All in favor? Carried. In committee reports, we have Maitland Valley minutes of a couple of meetings. Is there anything James wanted to add or any questions from other councillors?
I'd be willing to receive questions from any of the councillors. I don't think there's anything there that I need to really bring out. Everything's pretty well placed there for us.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no questions, moving to bylaw number 56, 2014, being a bylaw to authorize the signing of an agreement between the Corporation of the Township of North Huron and the Municipality of Morris Turnberry regarding the supply of water and sewer services to owners or occupants of lands located in the Municipality of Morris Turnberry and serviced by the Township of North Huron. Do I have a motion? Bailey and Campbell, is that 1, 2, and 3?
Mm-hmm.
Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 62, 2014, being a pardon?
Before we consider that bylaw, we have a motion to consider that Denise has left for council's consideration, and I will read it to you.
Oh, okay.
Whereas Council of the Corporation of the Township of North Huron has held a public meeting pursuant to Section 3412 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, with respect to proposed zoning bylaw 82, 2008, Township of North Huron Comprehensive Zoning Bylaw. And whereas certain changes have been made to the proposed bylaw after holding of the public meeting, now therefore the Council of the Corporation of the Township of North Huron hereby resolves that pursuant to Section 3417 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, no further notice is to be given in respect of the proposed bylaw. So we need that motion passed before we entertain the bylaw itself, please.
Bailey and Biden. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Okay. Bylaw number 62, 2014, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 82, 2008 of the Township of North Huron to rezone the subject lands from future development zone and natural environment zone to residential low-density zone and residential medium-density zone and urban natural environment and open space zone to permit the development of a residential subdivision on part lots 5 and 6, concession 1, Turnberry, being part 1, 22R5848, except part 1, 22R5878, Morris Turnberry / North Huron, Wingham Creek. Do I have a motion? Campbell and Bailey. All, any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Bylaw number 63, 2014, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 82, 2008, as amended, being the zoning bylaw of the Corporation of the Township of North Huron, all lands within the Township of North Huron. Do I have a mover? Campbell?
First, second, and third.
And Biden? Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Moving to council reports and inquiries.
Your Worship, I will. I sent an email a few weeks ago by a ratepayer on Highland Drive concerned about the congestion down Highland. So I suggested I would bring it forward to council for their input. Subsequently, I did receive an email from the chief of police that indicated that at one point former fire chief John Black had wanted to make the road just parking on one side, as he had concerns also with the narrowness of the road, and particularly with regards to getting fire apparatus down the road if he needed to. Chief Poole says that at that point the residents rejected that, and council didn't do anything else with it. So I'm not sure if council wants to revisit that in any way, or have me go back to the ratepayer and ask him if he wants to do some straw polling along the street. Other than limiting the parking on one side, there really is not a lot that can be done. Of course, the police do enforce the winter parking bylaws, but beyond that, it's a little challenging.
Just going on consensus, if you could go back and have a bit of a straw poll done as to whether a majority would be interested in us, James?
I'd be interested in having a big petition so that we have a signed document,
Yeah.
not just a straw poll.
Sure.
That's just my.
No problem. I can, I'll
Kind of
communicate
his
that with him.
consensus then? Bill?
Just something that came up today, noticing the, and I don't know how you can handle this, whether we get Kelly to contact in Central Huron on that lot that sits on the southwest corner there, which is going to be our Tim Hortons eventually. it's threshers, can we get them to cut the grass? Or get the property owner to consent to having them cut the grass, or we cut the grass? It looks pretty sloppy. Yeah, but I'm saying, can we have someone contact them and ask them if they would be amenable to?
Okay,
Yeah, well, part of that is actually their property, because it's actually the road allowance, which has not been cut as well. And so, part of it is his,
Yeah.
part of it is actually the municipality's road allowance. So, one way or the other, it would be nice to have that cut before this weekend.
That road allowance will be the county.
yeah,
Yeah, you're right, that would be county. That would be
Yeah.
county.
It's county.
Yeah.
can be both ways.
So I should cut the rest of the road sides where they're at. No.
Maybe we could just give instructions to the deputy clerk to maybe contact Peggy and see if she can have that done by next week.
Have the lot done, if that's okay. Okay, thank you. Vern?
I'm just wondering how we're coming along with the speed sign on the edge of town on Amberley Road. We requested Kelly to look into it, and I haven't heard further. It's been put up.
Once in garbage this weekend.
It's in garbage.
Is it headed this way?
I have no idea. I know it was heading, you were heading into garbage, they got you. Yeah.
I just gotta get it now. Could we look just to see what we're doing with that?
It's,
I have talked to the chief of police who usually looks after that sign, because he's on the CHIPS committee, and it is on his radar, so he knows about it.
Brock?
One other thing that we've discussed many times before, it's one of those things that it's very frustrating because the decision-making is so far away from us. I'm referring to the difficulty that we have getting rural issues through to the provincial government, through our representatives on ROMA, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, and which apparently now has to get approval of AMO before any policy can be developed or any action taken. And I know that the mayor of Central Huron is working on this very actively, and we have indication from him as to what he's suggesting through Roma and AMO. But I know a number of years ago when we were dealing with the school issue, I raised this matter with people from Roma and from AMO, and their response was, well, some of the municipalities like the way the schools are being closed. So they weren't really representing us at all. And I think that's true of many of the issues that we try to push forward through our organization, Roma. And so I just wanted to comment on it, and I think that we should be very active in encouraging Roma and AMO to take a more reasonable stand in terms of the effect that they're having, that the government is having on rural Ontario.
And that you worked on the Huron County Rural Lands Project, and that it was extremely strongly endorsed by the Roma Board in the presentation made by Jim Ginn at the AMO conference. And they were hoping to move forward and use some of the same style of graphics rather than just having a checklist as to whether it met, which was a yes or a no, where the style of the Huron County model had showing degrees of for or against, and gave a lot bigger chance to show a truer picture.
And I think that's a very positive side. It was a very effective design that came out of that, and I think that's wonderful. But if we have AMO stomping on everything that comes up from Roma, then I'm not sure that we're going to make much headway. And I don't know how this is going to be resolved, but I, for one, think that we need to be very active in that area, along with many other municipalities.
With the, I'll say, renewed president of AMO in Gary McNamara, that is a person that is very easy for smaller municipalities to approach.
Oh, that's good.
That Gary is, he understands small rural communities.
Very good.
Okay. You don't want to give clerk or a CAO
Sure she does.
administrator's report, Kathy?
No, thank you.
Okay, we'll let you off tonight. Moving to public gallery, questions and or comments.
I was just wondering, with that new banner ad, what's that put the new election up to this year for cost-wise?
We have very few election costs yet because we're not really into it, so it's kind of really hard to say at this point. Once we've done a little bit of advertising, the necessary advertising, and the amendments to the website, but we're really not into it yet until we start purchasing the vote by mail packages and having some election officials to help that night, so we'll know better after the election date.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trevor?
Sorry, Donna says we've only spent 4 of the 20,000, so like I said, most of that's been on advertising.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, Reed, a couple of questions actually for Pat, for you, more to do with the Blythe Hall. Are there contingencies built into the timelines? Basically, I know you stated that the construction period was based when the festival was not in operation. So if it's not, if something goes amiss, is it pushed back a whole year until that timeline is again available, or is there some other contingency available for that timeline?
Essentially, the entire project would have to move a year. There's no other contingency. The festival must operate. That is a huge economic driver for the Blythe community. And so there may be parts of it that we might be able to fit in. So as an example, if there was a small time frame in which we could do the roof and the HVAC systems or something like that, but we really need full control of the building to do that extensive a renovation. And the only opportunity to do that is in that construction period. So we're on an aggressive timeline, both from a fundraising and also a construction side.
Okay. So can you explain who developed the budget? So who actually developed the $3.2 million?
So through the entire renovation project, we have been not only doing a design, but at the same time a detailed budget on every line item throughout that. That has been done through Alan Davis's office, and there's also, so he has a number of sub-consultants which we have approved that he works with, and there's a cost consultant which has reviewed all of that, a construction cost consultant that has assessed that budget to ensure that we're on track. Plus each of the other engineering groups, the structural, the mechanical, electrical, the kitchen consultant, have all had input on pieces of the budget to ensure that we can, that is a realistic budget. But it is in today's numbers, so if we're 2 years delayed, that's going to be more. So we have to try and get it on schedule.
So does this renovation look to future usage, or does it look at the usage today?
The renovation looks at both. It looks at how the hall is used today, so how the Blythe Festival of the Arts puts on Blythe Festival each year, their needs, as well as maintaining, how our traditional country suppers and things like that take place. Along with that, we're looking at the 1419 Inc. campaign is all about economic development and culture and the arts in Blythe, and they're looking at greater usage of all of the potential facilities that would involve. And I'm sure that they could answer that question better than me, but it's about renting that facility 50 weeks a year.
Rob.
I'd just like to add one thing. They're also concerned with developing large meeting facilities using the lower hall as well as the auditorium, but larger meetings with better acoustics and better AV facilities and all that sort of thing. So that would be a development beyond the theater season.
Yeah, and I'm okay. I just want to understand if it's future looking, because operational plan to spend $3.2 million, we want to make sure, you want to make sure you're getting the best bang out of the operation of the facility as well. So I want to make sure, is it future looking, or are you doing it now and all of a sudden in 10 years from now, oh, we didn't have enough room for the capacity that we need? So that was just my question. Can you explain to me why you would need phase 3 approval before phase 2 is even started? Explain to me. I just don't understand that purpose.
Councilors can add to this, but ideally what we're trying to do is continue to move the project forward, and the entire budget of $3.2 million has been approved, and we want to, assuming we meet the renovation budget, the fundraising is in place, we want to move forward with phase 3. So we're really asking for council to approve the entire project, but we broke it down into 3 phases to ensure that 1419 and the fundraising part has each of those fundraising pieces in place before that phase is approved. So instead of coming and saying, can we have approval for the whole project, back months ago, we broke this into 3 phases, and we're trying to keep this to continue to move forward without having to go in reverse. So I guess that is the reason why we want to make sure that each phase is funded as it goes forward. So it was broken down into 3 phases.
Okay, just my comment is, by the time phase 3 happens, you could have had another council set in stone that probably would have approved it if you're that far ahead. That's my only comment.
Can I just throw an answer for that?
Okay.
So Trev, so we've committed our $500,000, so this council, and I'm going to presume whoever gets on the next council would follow through in that, because we invested $500,000. All the rest of the money is from volunteers and fundraisers and that, so we're saying to them that we're behind them, and they need to know that we're not going to stop halfway through. So if you're a fundraiser for that kind of money, you'd want to make sure that you're not going to fundraise for a year, year and a half, and then something go wrong. So they wanted that commitment from us.
Yeah, that's a piece of it. The fundraisers need to know. They've been looking for us to tell them what's the number we're fundraising for, and that's really what we're trying to achieve here.
Understood.
Okay.
The last question I had was with regards to the cross-border agreement. So at last council meeting, the way I interpreted the council meeting was Councillor Hallahan didn't have enough time to review the document. So my question was, did he provide any feedback or clarity on any issues or concerns that he had, because it was delayed 2 to 3 weeks to approve it when it could have been approved 2 weeks ago? Because I believe it was on the table to be approved, and then it wasn't. So just want to question that.
In talking to him this afternoon, that he was agreeable, that he felt that it should move ahead tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Moving to the in-camera session. Do I have the motion to go in camera? Campbell and Wadden, all in favor? Carried.